She had my face buried between her legs, while her husband slept in the next room. She grabbed the back of my hair, whispered my name like a secret prayer, and came undone with her wedding ring glinting in the moonlight. I could feel the weight of her guilt in every shiver, but she never told me to stop. Her thighs trembled. Her breath hitched. Her body spoke the truth her mouth would not dare say. Afterward, she turned away from me and whispered, "It is just a fling. This is not love." But the way she kissed me, it was not casual. It was desperate. Terrified. Real. And later, when her husband found out, he did not just destroy her. He came for me. To all my incredible returning viewers, thank you for always showing up for these stories. Your support is what brings these moments to life. And to the new viewers just discovering this channel, I appreciate you more than you know. I truly cannot wait for you to hit that subscribe button. It is the fuel that powers this channel and keeps these raw, twisted love stories flowing. Please do not forget to share your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one, and your reactions mean the world to me. Now, let me take you into the story. My name is Vanessa. I am 38. I am a white American woman, born and raised in Connecticut, now living just outside of Atlanta. I have never been married. I have no children. What I do have is a long history of loving the wrong people, especially when they are not mine to love. I met Lena in the middle of a humid Georgia summer. She walked into the small boutique cafe where I worked part-time. She ordered an oat milk latte and smiled like she had nothing in the world to hide. She wore diamond rings and red lipstick before noon. She was married. She made that clear. But she also made it clear that she noticed me. Lena came in almost every other day. Always alone. Always lingering. One morning, I complimented her earrings and she smiled in a way that was not polite, it was suggestive. She leaned over the counter and said, "You have the kind of voice that makes people confess things." I laughed it off, but that was the moment I knew. She was testing the waters. And I was ready to dive. It started with coffee. Then turned into phone calls. Then long drives out of the city where we could talk without eyes on us. She told me her husband, David, was a high-powered defense attorney. Wealthy. Brilliant. Cold. She said she felt like a trophy on his shelf, dusted and displayed, but never touched. "I just want to feel something again," she said one afternoon in my car, her hand grazing my knee. I asked her what she was looking for. She smiled and whispered, "A fling. Something reckless. Something I will never forget." The first time we kissed, we were parked behind a library. She pulled me into her lap like she had done it before. She tasted like cinnamon gum and the lies she told herself every day. We did not sleep together that night. Not yet. But the way she held my face afterward, trembling and breathless, told me she was already too far in. The first night we crossed the line completely was at her house. David was out of town. She invited me under the cover of darkness. I still remember how nervous she looked when she opened the door. She wore a silk robe and no bra. Her hands were shaking, but her eyes said she had waited for this longer than she would admit. We barely made it to the couch. She was wild. Hungry. Scared. She kept saying my name like she was trying to rewrite her identity with every moan. I undressed her slowly. She closed her eyes when I kissed the space below her collarbone. She whispered, "This is not love." But she cried when she came. And I held her until her breathing slowed. After that night, she became two different women. In public, polished, composed, untouchable. With me, raw, wild, needy. She texted me every morning before her husband woke up. "I cannot stop thinking about your hands. Last night was everything. Let us keep it simple. No feelings. Just fun." But there was nothing simple about the way she looked at me. There was nothing casual about the way she would cry in my arms after every stolen night. I asked her once, "Do you want more than this?" She shook her head. "No. This is just a fling. That is all." But I saw the way her hands lingered on my waist. I felt her jealousy when she saw me talking to other women at the cafe. And I knew. She was lying. Not just to David. But to herself. The risk made everything more intense. We had sex in my apartment, in her car, even once in the women's bathroom at a wine bar during a girls' night out. She liked the danger. She said it made her feel alive. She said she was addicted to me. But every time I asked her what we were, she pulled back. "It is just a fling," she repeated. But her eyes told a different story. I should have stopped. I should have walked away. But I was already too far in. The last time we were together before everything collapsed was in her house. David was asleep. We were on the kitchen counter. She wrapped her legs around my waist and kissed me like I was the only thing she believed in. I remember whispering, "I think I am falling in love with you." She froze. Then smiled. Then kissed me harder. And said nothing at all. After that night in her kitchen, everything changed. Lena became more reckless. More demanding. More possessive. She started calling me in the middle of the day, whispering from closets or laundry rooms while her husband was downstairs on conference calls. She sent pictures, nothing graphic, just enough to keep my body aching and my heart confused. A glimpse of her in my hoodie. A selfie in the mirror with her robe falling open. She told me I made her feel 17 again. Dangerous. Desired. Dirty. And I let her. But there was a part of me slowly unraveling. I told myself it was just lust. That I was playing along with the rules she had set. But it was more. It was the way her fingers reached for mine after every climax. The way she whispered my name like it meant something. The way she kept looking at the front door when we were together, like she wanted me to stay. I wanted more. She said it was just a fling, but her heart betrayed her mouth every time she held me. Then the guilt began to bleed into everything. I could not walk past a mirror without seeing the reflection of the woman I was becoming. I had never been proud of being the secret. But Lena made it feel like I was the only thing real in her life. She told me David never touched her anymore. That he gave her everything but love. She said their sex life was clinical, silent, and sad. One night, lying naked in her bed with the scent of her perfume clinging to my skin, she looked at me and said, "I do not think I ever loved him the way I was supposed to." I wanted to believe her. I wanted to believe I was not just a side note in her unraveling marriage. But even in that moment, I could feel something breaking beneath the surface. Lena started changing in small, terrifying ways. She would show up unannounced. She would go through my phone when she thought I was sleeping. She would get angry if I mentioned other women in my past. Once, she cried when she saw a picture of me and my ex-girlfriend on Instagram, even though it was posted 2 years before I met her. She was no longer acting like a woman having a fling. She was acting like a woman falling in love. But she refused to say it out loud. And I was stupid enough to believe that silence was protection. Then came the first close call. We were in my car behind a warehouse district, bodies tangled, our breaths fogging up the windows. She was on top of me, her hands gripping the seat, her moans spilling into the air like they belonged to someone fearless. And then, headlights. We froze. A security guard tapped on the window with a flashlight. I pulled my hoodie over her head, and she ducked down. I rolled down the window and fumbled through a lie about waiting for my sister. The man looked at me with suspicion but let me go. Lena sat there afterward, shaking, her hands clenched in her lap. I asked if she was okay. She looked at me with wet eyes and whispered, "He cannot ever know." But someone else did know. Or at least, someone suspected. Her best friend, Miranda. She came into the cafe one afternoon and asked if Lena had been spending a lot of time there. Her eyes were sharp. Her tone was casual, but her questions were not. She said, Lena has been acting weird. Distant. Sneaking around. And she never used to care what time David got home. Now she is always watching the clock. I lied. Told her I barely saw Lena anymore. But that conversation stayed with me. I started to feel it, like the walls were closing in. Still, Lena kept coming. More desperate. More aggressive. She started saying things like, if he ever finds out, I will tell him it meant nothing. She made me promise that if it ever came to light, I would say the same. But deep down, we both knew we were lying. One night, she came over in tears. David had found lipstick on one of her shirts and asked if she had been seeing someone. She told him it was from Miranda. He let it go. For now. But she was spiraling. We ended up having sex on my couch that night. Rough. Fast. Emotional. When it was over, she laid there silently, her hand resting on her stomach. Then she whispered, "You are the only thing I feel anymore." And I said it, finally. "I love you, Lena." She looked away. Closed her eyes. Then said it. "I love you, too. But I cannot leave him." I should have left right then. I should have walked her to the door and closed it behind her forever. But instead, I kissed her. Because love is stupid like that. It forgives too much. It lingers where it is not wanted. It begs for table scraps and calls it a feast. 2 weeks later, it happened. We were in the guest bathroom of her home during a birthday party for her in-laws. Lena pulled me in, locked the door, and kissed me like the room was on fire. She dropped to her knees and made me forget my name. Afterward, I looked in the mirror and whispered, "This is going to end badly." She smiled and said, "It will be our last time. I promise." But she was wrong. It was not our last time. It was the last time before everything exploded. It happened 2 nights after that bathroom incident. I was lying in bed when Lena called. Her voice was shaking. She said, "I think he knows." I sat up instantly. "What happened?" She paused. Then said, "He found my journal. I forgot I had written about you, about us." My throat tightened. I asked her what she meant by journal. She admitted she had written letters to me, unmailed, unsent, tucked between lingerie in the back of her drawer. David must have found them while looking for something else. She said he had not confronted her yet. But he was quiet. Cold. Too quiet. And when she kissed him goodnight, he flinched. The next day, she did not text me. Or the day after that. The silence felt sharp. Deadly. Then, that Friday night, there was a knock at my apartment door. I assumed it was her. But it was him. David. He stood there in a black wool coat, his face pale and blank. No emotion. No rage. Just calculation. He stepped inside without waiting for permission. He held up Lena's journal. I recognized the ribbon on the spine. He threw it onto my table like it burned his hands. "She wrote about everything," he said. "Every night. Every touch. Even the way you smell." I stayed frozen, unsure what to say. Then he looked me dead in the eye. "I just have one question," he said. "Did you love her?" I could have lied. I could have shaken my head. But I was too tired. I said, "Yes." He nodded. Slowly. Then his face cracked. Not with rage. With devastation. He sank into the armchair across from me like all the air had left his body. "She was all I had left," he said. "I worked 18 hours a day to give her everything. And the one thing I never gave her, someone else did." I felt the guilt crawl up my throat. But the truth was, he had never really seen her. He loved the idea of her. The version he created. But the real Lena? The woman who cried in my bed and whispered my name like it was salvation? He had lost her long before I came into the picture. Still, I had crossed the line. And now, the fallout had begun. Lena showed up the next morning. No makeup. No ring. No excuses. Her eyes were hollow. I did not know he would go to you, she said. I asked her what she wanted now. What we were supposed to do. She sat on my couch and said, he told me to leave. I stared at her. Are you going to fight for him? She shook her head. I think he was relieved. I waited for her to say it. For her to say she chose me. That we could finally stop hiding. That the nightmare was over, and we could be together in the daylight. But she did not say any of that. Instead, she whispered, I need to be alone. I need to figure out who I am without him, without you. And just like that, she ended us. She left behind a scarf. A lavender silk one she used to tie around her ponytail on lazy afternoons. I still do not know if she meant to leave it. But it stayed. Like a ghost in my closet. Like a promise that was never meant to be kept. Weeks passed. People in the neighborhood whispered. Miranda never came back to the cafe. David filed for divorce quietly, using a different firm. And Lena? She vanished. No calls. No messages. Not even a goodbye. One evening, I received a letter. No return address. It was from Lena. Just a single page. Written in her soft, loopy handwriting. Vanessa. I wanted to say thank you. For waking me up. For making me feel again. For loving me even when I was not brave enough to love you back. I thought it was just a fling. But it was the most real thing I have ever had. I hope one day you forgive me for how I left. I am not who I need to be yet. But maybe one day. I will be. L. I folded the letter and put it in the same drawer where I used to keep her toothbrush. And then I cried. Not because she left. But because I knew I would always wonder what might have been. Now, every time someone says the word fling, I smile to myself. Because what I had with Lena? That was not a fling. It was a wildfire. And once it burned, nothing inside me was ever the same again.